Welcome back, students. Today we're starting Unit 2, which is going to be, sorry, wrong tool here, Unit 2, which is going to have a lot of graphing involved in it. And so we're going to do a quick refresher course on what is the coordinate plane. So the coordinate plane is going to be defined as something that's been formed by the intersection. Intersection just means a crossing of a horizontal number line that is actually says number. It's terribly written, sorry. All right, horizontal, which means left, right. And a vertical number line. And vertical means up, down. So if you take a look at this picture of a coordinate plane here, this is the vertical number line, the one that goes up, down. This is the horizontal number line, the one that goes left, right. And they cross right here. That's where the intersection is, where the two of them cross. And the grid that's behind it, that kind of looks like graph paper, that's used to help you place things exactly on the coordinate plane so that people can trace them back, the lines back to the number line and see what number we're representing. Now these number lines have names. The horizontal number line is labeled the x-axis. Axis is a Greek word. Okay, so marking it down here, this is going to be my x-axis. So basically, this is where we'll find all of the numbers along this line that would represent the value of our variable x. And then this is the y-axis. And along this number line, we will find all of the numbers that our y variable might represent. So that is the vertical number line. Okay. And if it helps thinking about it, well, let's mark the origin first and then we'll go on. The origin is this section here. Okay, it's that crossing, it's that intersection. It has its own name. So we'll define that as the point where the x-axis, that's our horizontal one, the left-right one, and the y-axis intersect. Okay. And people tend to mark it with an O, okay, like that. And this is a very special place on each number line. The origin, the place where you make your number lines cross, if you're constructing one of these yourself, must be at the part of the number line that has 0 for each of them. So along the x-axis, all right, my x number line, this would be like where 0 would be. So if we had something like the number line when we were graphing inequalities, that little point right here in the center that I marked with the O, that has to be where 0 is. Okay, it can never be any other number. And the same goes for the y number line. Now I know the y number line is not in a direction that you're used to. If it helps, you can kind of turn it on its side. But that point that I've circled is also 0 on the y number line. So it's supposed to be the place where sort of they both agree, where they both start from. It's considered to be starting from 0. That's why we call it the origin, because the origin is the place where things start. Now, when you make these two number lines cross, they kind of divide your graph paper up into 4 regions. We call those regions quadrants. So these are the 4 regions created by the intersection, remember that's the crossing, of the, practicing all our vocabulary, x-axis, our name for the x number line, and y-axis, our name for the y number line. So I already have y-axis, x-axis, and I have my origin mostly marked here. This is the origin. The other things to mark on this would be the quadrants. Now, our quadrants, because it's just the name of like a general region of our graph, we use Roman numerals so people aren't tempted to do math with those numbers. And quadrant 1, they're not where you would expect them to be. Quadrant 1 is located here. So instead of writing a number 1, I'm going to write a Roman numeral 1. It looks like a capital I. Quadrant 2, also not as you would expect. The quadrants go counterclockwise around the origin. So this is quadrant 2. You have to memorize these, otherwise you probably won't guess them correctly. Quadrant 3, 3 lines, then with the bars on the top and the bottom. Quadrant 4, the Roman numeral 4 is a little different. It's a line and then a V, and then you have the bars on the top and the bottom. So we can discuss what basic quadrant our points are in or our graph is in, depending on where our graph has landed on the coordinate plane. Now, actually writing the points and using these number lines, the way that we're going to communicate to you the location of our point on the coordinate plane in respect to its number lines is with an ordered pair, sometimes called a coordinate point. Coordinate. So both of them together will be a coordinate point or an ordered pair. I have a tendency to use coordinate point instead of ordered pair, but that's just me. So this is a pair of numbers. So let's say we have 2 numbers as our answer, one for the x variable, one for the y variable. These numbers, okay, are going to be written in the form, we'll always write the x1 first, and then a comma and the y, and we're going to surround them with parentheses to show that they belong with each other. These 2 numbers don't represent the same variable, but they're somehow linked together, and so we show that with the parentheses. Okay, we're going to use these 2 numbers to locate a point on the coordinate plane. Which we'll do on the back side of the notes. Okay. So here's the kind of a big picture of a ordered pair or a coordinate point. So there would be a number in the x position, there would be a number in the y position, and those 2 numbers would represent the answer for each variable. Now, sometimes that number, we can refer to that as the value of x, will be called all by itself the x coordinate, right? It's the x coordinate of the coordinate point or the coordinate pair. Sometimes we're going to be referring to it as the input, and sometimes we'll be referring to it as the independent variable. Now, the y's answer, okay, or the value for y, is going to be called the y coordinate. Also sometimes referred to in math, especially if we're talking about functions, as the output, and then the dependent variable. Independent and dependent variables, by the way, guys, are very science-oriented names. Okay, and the x value, or the x coordinate, corresponds to a particular location on the x number line, but we're going to be calling it the x-axis. And the y part of our ordered pair, the y value, is going to correspond to a location along the y number line, or as we will now call it, the y axis.